All right. So our first review of the day is going to be for the film called Cuckoo. Cuckoo is a film directed by Tillman Singer. This is the first time I've ever seen him. Apparently, he did another movie that got a lot of attention called Luz. There before, I've never seen it, but he's gotten much attention from that. And then in this film, Cuckoo, it's a film from Neon. Neon is kind of like a good, like usually when their name is attached to something. Usually, it's a good sign of quality, much like with
Mhm.
A24. Sometimes they associate with a lot of good, weird, quirky stuff, interesting stuff. In this film, it stars Hunter Schafer, who's a 17-year-old girl there traveling with her family to this resort in the German Alps. And when she gets there with her family, kind of some weird things start happening, start going around here. Start noticing all these
Mhm.
strange things at night, seeing all these kind of different creatures there, such these humanoid kind of creatures, kind of trying to figure out what is going on, what is that there. And also in this film, you have Dan Stevens, who people know Dan Stevens. He's been in things. He was just recently in the Godzilla and Kong movie, The New Empire. He was in also in Abigail. He was also in The Guest. People have seen him around in a bunch of stuff recently. He plays the owner of the hotel at this resort there, a person that her father and her stepmother know. And her father in this is played by Martin Kukos, is his name there, and Jessica Hedwig, who's her stepmother in this. And Hunter Schafer's character, Gretchen, as she's called there, has a stepsister who's by the name of Alma. So this family kind of goes there, starts noticing all these different incidents start happening, strange things, and it's kind of a mystery as to what's kind of going on. Um, I would say that the movie, it's kind of one of those cases where, because when I saw the trailer for this
Mhm.
in the theaters, very interesting. I was very intrigued by it. I was like, man, I really want to go see this. Really want to go check it out. But actually, having now seen it, I was like, it's one of those cases where the trailer was much more interesting than the actual movie itself. But I'm going to pass it around. Dusk, what are your thoughts on Cuckoo there?
I think Neon is a very interesting company. It's released several good movies so far, or at least interesting movies, I should say, like Immaculate, Long Legs, and Honora, and now Cuckoo. And I think the best part of Neon movies, if is their trailers. Sometimes I think it's a curse with Neon is that sometimes their trailers are far better than the movies they end up being. And I don't know if they pay their trailer editors enough because they really make a make or break for these movies. Oftentimes they're very lower budgeted. Neon always felt to me like the little brother of A24, which is kind of even more of a selective budget and doing even weirder stuff. And I feel with that definition, I think it can lead into how I felt about this movie. And it has moments where it's kind of interesting, but despite what the trailer shows, this is way too campy to be taken truly as chilling. It's just not. It's not enough. It doesn't lean into being more of a B movie, which there are many moments in this where if it just leaned into just being more of a B movie, I think it would have worked out better for it. But it doesn't. So it kind of rides this middle ground where it wants to be has serious moments and taken seriously, but then I'll have these absurd, more B movie esque moments, and the performance, especially with Stevens, is just so silly. Yet he's very like you can tell he's kind of earnest. He's really going for it, and the acting and the action. I'm sorry, is really pretty decent, but it never really where I kind of wanted it to go is to almost go pure pulp. It
Mm.
could have gone pure pulp, and I think it would have done its service better because as is, it kind of rides this middle ground of trying to be horror, but also just too darn silly for it to really fully ever embrace that fact.
Mm. Yeah, I kind of see what you mean. Thank you, Angie Plays. Thank you for the raid, man. Much appreciated. Thanks for
Nice,
stopping
thank you.
by. Yeah, because I mean, yeah, so it's trying to kind of walk that kind of balance between, like I said, being very campy or being very chilling. From some reviews, I guess I've heard about and I've seen people said this movie's very scary, very terrifying. I didn't really find that movie to
Yeah.
be this scary or terrifying at all. I don't think. I mean, there's some good kind of jump scare moments in here that work. There's
Mhm.
some moments at night that really work. I mean, it's kind of people. It's also kind of another neon movie that just came out this year, Long Legs, very good at, atmosphere, very good at,
Mhm.
kind of building this kind of good setup of this kind of, horror type, situation here that we have, and I'm trying to I don't wanna spoil anything, I have to be a little bit
Mhm.
vague here as far as, like, kinda all what happens here. But I think the setup is good, I just think the execution is not, and then when it comes to the ending is where it really fumbles because they're trying to explain all this stuff that's happening at the end, and I just
Yeah.
don't think it really is that strong and doesn't really make that much sense there at the end. But, I
Kinda
mean,
gave Go ahead.
I was gonna say still some good, performances though. I
Mhm.
mean, good performances. I liked Hunter Schafer in this. I liked, Jessica Hedwig in this. I like Dan Stevens. Dan Stevens is doing a German accent, in this. Some people say it's bad, some people say it's pretty good. I don't know. I'm not very good with accents, but I mean, I thought he's pretty good there. I'm not too, I'm not an expert on the German accent there, but how did you think Dan Stevens did with his
I mean, like I said before, he is being completely earnest in giving a almost laughable performance, but he's very sincere about it. He's very campy, yet he rides that line, but he never quite finds that balance of being. There's a couple moments where he's unsettling, but he never quite this never quite leans into the horror aspect, except for more like a thriller with some horror elements here and there that really kind of surprise you here and there. But I think he's one of the better, more interesting performances. I think he works well with I'm sorry, Hunter Schafer. I think it does a solid job as Gretchen. And as for the rest of the cast, I just think they're okay.
Mm,
Besides the two mains, they're really the ones holding this together. This is more of a bottleneck movie, and because they're really only focused in this certain area, and without going into spoilers, it really just comes down to both their performances for a lot of the movie.
mm,
And I think they do pretty well, but again, the tone of this movie is just kind of all over the place on what it really wants to be.
mm, yeah.
It, there are even some moments where I felt like this movie could have been like a solid giallo, like it could have been a solid giallo movie, but it doesn't have enough blood and guts to it. Doesn't have enough like murder in it to really justify that. But it had little moments where it maybe could have gone that route. But yeah, around that after the two-thirds point, it just veers into what it wants to be. And when we get to that ending, it's just you're just like, oh, okay.
Um, yeah, I mean, we're kinda like I said, that's where it really fumbles there at the ending. The kinda getting there, even to the ending, I think is a little kinda dull. I think at
Hmm.
some points they're just kinda getting there to the ending, and some of the effects done in the movie, and you'll see with, like, these kind of creatures with their ability, what they're able to do. I just feel like, okay, are they it doesn't really play much into the story very much. It's like almost like this time skipping ability where I'm like, okay, are they just mind controlling or is it like a
Hmm.
time skip type of situation there? So that kind of got me there. But I mean, it like I said, it's got some good stuff there. I mean, it's not a bloody movie at all that you have here. And this is like a good scene right here that showcases some of the horror. And this is early on in the movie there. In the setup of it, at night biking, playing
Hmm.
with the shadows there. This is really good.
Again, this is what I mean when it's kind of almost going in a giallo way, using color, using the color to help express it. That in the background, that's a good kind of show of a scare or at least some form of it. There's craft here. It just doesn't know what tone it's really going for.
Mhm. Yeah.
This is probably the strongest part in the movie. I'm going to be honest. One of the strongest parts.
Yeah, because it does good at kinda introducing, because I think this is when you first see the creature at
Yes.
kinda this point here. So it does a good job at, like, introducing it there, and Hunter Schafer does a good job at portraying fear there, and then she's gonna smack her head right boom,
Hmm. Yeah.
right there, which is pretty funny there. And also the dynamic with her family is kind of interesting one there because this movie also seems it's like takes place in seems like the 90s, it seems like,
Yeah.
or early 2000s
'Cause
there.
there's Walkmans and those kind of devices. So, yeah, probably late '80s, early '90s.
Yeah, and the answering machine that she calls on is a very, like, old looking, like, answering machine there. Um, so yeah, it takes place, yeah, kind of that, a little bit of kinda later in time there without stressing how much it is later in time, which I thought was nice. But yeah, the dynamic with her and her family of, like I said, it's like one of those cases where her father now has kinda moved on, after, uh, he's not with her mother anymore, so he's found a new wife. The new wife is Jessica Henwick. He's got a new daughter now, so it's almost like, it's a whole new family, and then she's there. How'd you like the dynamic between how the family and then her and that how that went?
I mean, when then for as long as they're there and they're relevant, I think they do well enough. You definitely get a sense from Hunter Schafer's acting that there's distance there,
Mm,
and they don't. It's of course of the narrative of yeah, things are kind of happening with you, and we're not really. We're trying to care, but there's distance here, and we're not sure what to believe from you, especially when things get a little more crazy.
well, and she's 17, she's about to be 18, and it's like, "You're about to be, out of the house. I gotta focus
Mhm.
on this, my other daughter who she's, about, like, 8. We gotta focus
And
on."
doesn't really speak.
Yeah, she's mute,
Yeah, so
yeah, so all the things. But, yeah, I mean, I just think this is one of those cases where interesting trailer. I mean, whoever made the trailer kick ass. I mean, it's a really
mhm,
good job at the trailer. I mean, it really makes you with the music and the way it's, edited. I mean, it's really nice. It's like, man, I really at least it made for me, it made me go, I really wanna check this out. I really wanna
mhm.
go see it. And, I don't think it's terrible. I don't think it's a terrible movie. It's just kinda like, okay, I think I expected something better than what the trailer kind of offered me here. And I think, yeah, it's just kind of one of those situations. And the ending is just not as satisfying as I kind of want it to be. It leaves kind of some answers kind of dangling there, questions at least I had kind of dangling there that kind of are unanswered. And but I mean, still good perform. I mean, Dan Stevens. I mean, he's always going to be good, even when he's in something bad. I'm not saying this is bad, but just in general, I'm saying he's always going to deliver a good performance there, no matter what. Hunter Schafer, she's building her profile. She's like with all these other Euphoria people. We saw her in Kinds of Kindness for like a scene and Hunger Games and trying to have raise her profile and do a bunch of other stuff. And I think she works as a lead. I think I would like to see her in more stuff. It's really not so much with Jessica Hedwig and the family. There's quite a bit with the daughter, the sister at the end. There's quite a bit with her that works, but she doesn't really speak, so it's hard to really assess how much her performance is in the movie there. But yeah, so for me, I would kinda give it maybe a low tune in, kind of a high stream it, maybe. What about for you?
Uh, yeah, I kinda around with you. I'm gonna with a solid stream it.
Okay.
This is again, whoever cut the trailer, good on you, Neon. But also, I think look, if you're going into seeing, like, this movie kinda might be maybe like a long legs, no, taper your expectations. This is not that kind of a movie. This is much more of a kind of a I wanna say thriller light with some mystery elements, some Giallo style kind of filmmaking where it uses the lower angles, uses a lot of technicolor, or at least focuses more on the vivid, the saturation are at points, so color stands out a bit more, and it focuses a lot more on a bottleneck situation where everyone being in an isolated area. Again, perfect for a smaller budgeted film, but if you're expecting anything bigger than that, I think you should taper your expectations. With that considered, I think it's a fine enough movie. It's interesting. That's its biggest thing. I'll give it. And in a sea of uninteresting movies, this is the least interesting. I wish it stuck the landing better. I wish its explanation was a bit better. And I wish they'd stuck to a specific genre better. Because I think if it went full on pulp camp or full on pulp B movie, and embraced that aspect of it, I think it would have come out much better. But because it rides that line, it never really leaves a fully satisfying arc. But there are scenes where I think leave a lot of interesting creativity.
Yeah, it's a very well made movie. Very well
Mhm,
made movie. I won't say that, even if I wasn't that, big on the film, I'd still say it's a still well made film. In its production, in its direction, in its writing, in its performances, in the look of the movie. Very interesting, the way it's kind of done. It's just that one of those cases where it's just when it all comes together, it's just not as the package really isn't all that good,
mhm,
that you have there. So yeah, so I wouldn't say I was completely disappointed. I mean, there's still some good things about it, but
mhm,
yeah, I mean, I think the main shout out goes to the editor of the trailer here. Yeah. So, kind of strong streamings, a lowish tune in for Cuckoo